everybody. This is Tim Lee, co-founder and CEO of LendAPI. May 28th, we're going to bring another episode. This time we have Tommy Cotter from Benzinga. A lot of you guys probably have read or heard of this company. We've got the guy that's managing the API data endpoint on this podcast to kind of talk about what are some of the things that excites him as of late. But welcome to the podcast, Tommy. And for everybody else in the audience, please introduce yourself and what you've been up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tim. So my name's Tommy. I like Tim said, I work at Benzinga, building out our API platform. For those unfamiliar with Benzinga, we're a financial news company, so we write stock market news, mostly for retail investors in the United States, and we're starting to expand globally as well. And aside from our news product, we've got 30 other API endpoints that we've built over the years, and so a lot of corporate actions data and other unique endpoints. That's what we've been up to, and we work with a lot of banks and brokerages and fintech startups. So that's a little bit about Benzinga.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I actually talked to the VC arm of Motley Fool. Sorry, Motley Fool. And it felt like it gives me the same vibe when I go to your website. Lots of news articles, lots of hot takes and opinions, lots of stats and data that can't find anywhere else. I might in the sort of the right strike zone there.
Yeah. Motley Fool they're definitely in the same space, and I think one thing that they do well is evergreen content. So they teach people a little bit about why a particular news item is important and how it can relate to their general investing strategy. And I think we do some of that at Benzinga as well. I would say the main Benzinga content differentiator is we make our news content super simple and easy to understand. So we break down for a particular event what happened, why it matters, and what happens next. And so anybody could read it. Your grandma can read the content and be able to understand it. And I think that's something that we hang our hat on.
Yeah, maybe that's why I'm gravitating towards some of the Benzinga articles out there. I don't want to use the word clickbait, but it was grabbing headlines. It definitely got my attention. Things that are relevant to me about maybe some of the clients we serve, some of the peers we have in the industry. I just want to take a look at what they've been doing. And those articles are fairly easy to read. Like you said, maybe 700 words, 1,000 words. And it gets to the point right away. It doesn't take me to a journey and and then to give me nothing at the end of the day or click on another link to find more information. That's really cool. So your target audience is just retail, maybe accredited investors that are interested in the equity market or some other, financial areas, I guess, right? Looking for investment strategies.
Yeah, that's our target audience. We write content for our website, which obviously attracts a wide reach and attracts people who are searching for a particular topic.
Right.
I think a lot of people, when they look at their portfolios, they maybe see a stock is up or down, and they want to know what's happening. Why is my portfolio moving today? And so we publish all of that content to our website, but one of our bigger focuses has been to work with the brokerages as well. So we can provide that service to the brokerage where they can natively integrate the content into their platform and keep users in one place.
Okay.
So people don't have to leave their brokerage to understand why something is moving.
Right. I get it. If I use Coinbase, for example, of course, there's a lot of crypto stuff, on their platform, but you can also do other type of investments. And sometimes I see, relevant news articles to that ticker, if you will. I'm doing research or a portfolio, whatever it might be. I- I'm not saying that you guys work with them, but that's probably where these API feeds come into play, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there are a whole host of wealth management, wealth tech, I guess fintech startups out there. Is that your audience as well to feed news articles or data into those platform, so their audience can stay put, right, so to speak, on their platform?
Yeah, we do work with a handful of wealth techs as well, and the financial advisor space. Um, it's not a space that we've focused a ton on, but I would say that we do pipe our content into those firms. I think a lot of wealth tech and the family offices, they they do select their own stocks. And I would say that they probably buy a lot of mutual funds and ETFs
Hmm.
as well. And while Benzinga doesn't, we don't really cover a basket of stocks or a mutual fund,
Sure.
but we cover the underlying assets. Um, and so, yeah, that the data is certainly valuable
Right.
for them as well.
Right. I mean, you guys probably have a lot of data on what people are researching and looking at, other than the, I guess, the NVIDIAs of the world. What are some of the trends out there? Are people still looking at equity investments, um, micro caps? What's been the hottest topic right now as of late?
Yeah, so there's two interesting things I think that are happening in the markets, and I would say prediction markets and private markets are two of the hottest topics. So people used to love these penny stocks, and then
Sure.
forex was a trend for a bit,
Yeah.
and as of late, I think people are they see this massive growth that's happening with companies like Anthropic, with
Hmm.
SpaceX and
Yes.
Stripe and all of these private companies,
Right.
and they want to figure out a way to stake some equity in
Sure.
those companies, and so we've been covering the private markets, and then prediction markets, on the other hand, is interesting too. The fact that anybody can do research on a particular topic
Right.
and bet on the outcome of
Right.
that topic. If they want to bet on Brian Armstrong and what he's going to say in the next earnings call,
Right.
um,
That's insane.
it,
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
Yes. On the private market side, I think at least in the last 72 hours, it was all about SpaceX pre-IPO, with their S1 filing, and people are reading the fine lines like no tomorrow. And if somebody found that SoFi, it's in on some shares, so how does that all work? I mean, does SoFi use that as a leverage to get more members sign up so they can actually have a chance, right, to buy some shares immediately, I guess, before IPO? Is that what people are looking into, trying to
Yeah, I
figure
mean,
out a way to
I'll
sneak
be
in?
honest, I haven't scoured the S1 as closely as some people on X probably have, but
Yeah,
I'm sure, yeah, if SoFi is buying shares, then yeah, we'll probably
make it
try and
available.
offer them. Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, for just regular retail investors, maybe even accredited, how do they even get access to these private markets? Like SoFi, they probably bought a whole bunch of shares, for the benefit of attracting more members and more signups. Uh, what do you have to do? I mean, for folks that may not have $1 million, $2 million to join a fund or something like that.
Yeah, I think there's a concept of democratization. It's always like a slow ramp, right? But eventually it happens. So Robinhood Ventures, for example, they launched a fund where you can invest in all of these private, shares of private equity, and so that's one vehicle. And then you've got other platforms like NASDAQ Private Markets
Right.
um, and others. So I
Right.
think it's becoming easier to throw $500, $1,000
Yeah.
in one of these companies and see what
Yeah.
happens. Um, and it's interesting.
In some ways, it might be good for. I don't think SpaceX will worry about subscribing to their shares pre-IPO, but for some other folks, it might be interesting to get access to accredited or retail investors and amass billions of dollars, as opposed to, in addition to that pre-IPO roadshows, you got to go and haggle to sell 15-20% of that share before IPO. Um, but
Yeah,
do you remember SPACs?
yeah,
It was hot maybe, I don't want to say 5-6 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah. My God, I mean, like, people were trying to sneak their way into these SPAC deals, and they're super speculative. Lots of forums talking about, oh, they formed a new SPAC, and we think this is going to be the SPAC for X, Y, and Z IPO. Um, as a publication that has lots of, uh, I guess, reputation to upkeep, how do you discern, these SPAC deals, or maybe 10 years ago, these initial coin offerings, the ICOs, you remember that,
Hmm.
versus good content. You mentioned writers, and when all these newsrooms are firing all the journalists, how do you guys keep to that mission to get good solid content that's not doesn't take people down?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's one. It's super important, I think, to have humans in the loop still with editorial coverage,
Hmm.
as there's so many of these AI aggregators, and
Yeah.
people can spin up an AI agent that'll look at press releases and just
Right.
create a bunch of slop.
Yeah.
When you have that human touch and that human discernment, where someone's looking at a news event and discerning, is this actually important? Is this a
Right.
fad? Um,
Right.
and then creating an unbiased, right down the middle piece of coverage on that. I
Right.
think that's invaluable
Yeah.
in
I
this
read a
day
lot
and
of those
age.
slops. Why is this
Yeah,
ticker down 75% today, right? What are the three things to watch out before earnings announcement? You go in there and just a summarization of what had happened in the last 32 hours, and I stopped reading after two paragraphs. But it got me to click on it. It's one of
yeah.
those,
And you look through the entire body of the content,
has
and
no new information.
yeah, and you're trying to piece together why is it relevant? Is there something else that I should be aware of? And
Right.
it just covers maybe like an earnings number or
Yeah.
something like that.
Summarizes it, and maybe if you're lucky, to compare it to another ticker that may be relevant. And I think they're very watchful about that, because AI doesn't know if the two
Hmm.
companies are really alike. Um, so Benzinga is in the great city of Detroit. That's where
Yeah,
the headquarters is, right? Is that where you live as well?
yeah. I'm based in Detroit. I'm in the headquarters right now, actually.
Wow.
Uh, we were founded in Detroit in 2009, and so
Yeah.
we've been here a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there a few times. I worked with Quicken Loans, or now known as Rocket Loans, for a while. Been there a few times, and I get I mean, of course, talking to folks at Rocket or Quicken, there was a lot of sense of pride in that whole region, and certainly the city of Detroit. And I feel like that company in particular, maybe all of the folks in Detroit, have really gone out of their way to invest in the people, right? In the city, brought a lots of investment in. And I just did a podcast with the former general counsel of Rocket Loans, and he still lives out there. And he said, Tim, whatever you saw, 10 years ago is completely different now. I thought it was really cool downtown. And if you look out your window, and you've been there all your life, I think, right, in the area, what's new? What's going on? Should people take vacation there? Tell us about Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, Detroit was a gloomy, sad, you know, dilapidated destination, and now it's really a place to see. Like you said, people take pride in the city, and especially Dan Gilbert and everything that he's done downtown, with being intentional about places that he wants to develop, and it's been crazy to see the growth that's happening down here. New buildings are popping up left and right, and the city is just transforming into an entirely different place. So
Wow.
I see people from all over the world, and that they're downtown for an event or just visiting, and 10 years ago you wouldn't have said that.
Right. I remember when I was there, there's like a above ground train that's coming into downtown, like right smack downtown center, J train or something, L or something like that.
The Q
Was that
line.
the Q line? That's right.
Yeah.
Q line, of course.
Yeah.
How's that going? Do you ride it sometimes? What's going on with that
Yeah,
system?
it's good. I can't say that I've ridden it. I wish it um I wish it was had a little bit more functionality. Like,
Sure.
it'll get you from downtown to a small town called New Center just up the road.
Right.
Um, but if it were able to take me to like Ann Arbor or
Oh,
Chicago,
right.
that would be the real deal.
Yeah. Well, Dan, if you hear this, for whatever reason, we need to pay some more tracks.
Yeah, we need to
Um,
get the bullet train like they have everywhere
oh,
else in the world.
oh my gosh. I mean, talking about bullet train, we may have like a couple of miles of that in California. That was like billions of dollars sunk into it, and we just haven't seen it yet. I love it if they can bring it all the way to LA to Las Vegas, right? That 3 4 hour drive would be shortened down to like maybe 45 50 minutes, but
Yeah,
one
yeah,
can only
you
hope.
could live in Las Vegas and work in LA.
That sounds like a very efficient tax strategy. a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of my friends moved to Henderson, Nevada for that reason. They lived out there 3 4 days a week, but I see them out here as well, spending some time out here. But um, you grew up in around Lansing. I think you had a pretty good athletic career in college, right? I just had a professor on yesterday on this podcast. Um, how do you think about your career now, um, working with technology, data, and prior to this, you were working on one of the biggest automakers. We can get into that in a little bit, and all of that college career that prepped you all the way up to what you're doing now. Can you draw some analogies there, Tommy?
Yeah. So I played basketball at Oakland University, which is about an hour from downtown Detroit. It's not Oakland, California, which a lot of people get confused, but it's in the Detroit area, smaller Division I school, and I it was my whole life. From the ages of 10 to 23, all I did was play basketball. And so I learned a lot. I met a lot of different people. I think it taught me how to stay dedicated and to be a hard worker. I was the gym rat. I wasn't one of these naturally skilled players, so I worked for everything that I
Right.
got. Um, and it taught me to be punctual. So I think, and it taught me to be a teammate too. So that's really important in the business world,
Yeah.
is to be a team player, and to understand subtle cues around you. So definitely
Right.
valuable
Yeah.
experience for me.
You were definitely a scorer. What position did you play?
I was more of a rebounder and more of
Okay.
a scrappy defensive guy.
Right.
Um, but Yeah, that was my bread and butter.
Yeah. Did you throw a three-pointer at one of the key games back in the days?
I can't say that I did. I was more of a power four, like center type guy,
Yeah,
playing down low, grabbing rebounds. So
yeah. When I was doing some research on my, guests here, if it felt like certainly raised like that, you grew an inch in college.
yeah,
I mean, you're gonna have to talk to my son about this. I mean, how, how did you? I mean, some people are just naturally talented. You're 6'7", 6'8", 6'9".
yeah,
Um, apparently, people still grow
yeah.
in
I don't know how it
college.
happened, but
I love it.
I guess I just kept eating my veggies and working out, and I happened to grow a little bit in
Yeah.
college.
Do you still play? Do you play in the men's league? Yeah.
Yeah, every Monday I play in a men's league, right up the street, and I love it still. So every week I'm tracking my points, watching the film, and
Wow.
it's fun.
Okay. What? Um, I read a lot about uh, revitalization of the auto sector in Detroit because there's still a lot of talent. There's still a lot of infrastructure there. I know you spend a lot of time building not building vehicles per se, but work at a big auto manufacturer. What's going on there? Are I guess EVs, that might be a dirty word now, coming back to Detroit? What's going on in that whole sector? What's new in Detroit? What's the main attraction now? Is it technology? Is it automotive?
Yeah, so um, auto is still big in Detroit, and that's the reason why I ended up working in auto because when you go to a university in the Metro Detroit area, once you're done with school, you just go right down the street and get a job at one of the big three,
Yeah.
and so that's what I did. And in auto, for those who haven't worked in it, it's a tough environment, but I learned a lot in auto, and I was in the I was in the body shop of a Ram truck plant. Um, so we were making the cab and the truck bed of these Ram trucks, and it's a fascinating process if you've never seen it. We had like 900 to 1,000 robots that all they would do all day is they would go around and make a small spot weld around the seam of two slabs of metal
Yeah.
stuck together,
Yeah.
and then it would roll down the line and it would get painted and then assembled. So there's a lot going on.
Yes. I studied engineering, and I had a co-op uh, opportunity for about a year working for GM and Toyota Ventures. Back in the days, these Japanese automakers came to the U.S., and I guess the give is that you have to sort of joint venture with one of the U.S. auto manufacturers because we were curious about the Toyota manufacturing system, their whole Kanban, Kaizen, the philosophy of continuous improvement. So I worked in one of the plants, and I think we were making Pontiac. Remember that brand, Vibe, which is their little SUV, and Geo Metros, if you
Okay.
remember that little car,
Yeah.
and Corollas for sure out of the Fremont, which is next to Oakland, California plant location, and the Toyota Tacomas. And we will have engines and truck beds, like you said, shipped into that plant, and it gets assembled, and the final car kind of rolls out the plant. And you're absolutely right. There were robots upon robots, and the stamping machine is going off in the background. The whole
Yeah.
floor shakes, because I think we were making some parts as well. But it is a fascinating business, and I can only imagine what it is now. Probably lights out, dark factory kind of a thing. It's all robotics or robots putting stuff in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a fascinating business. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and
and the the Toyota manufacturing system is so highly regarded. Every U.S. automaker is trying to take a page out of their book
Yeah.
and integrate it into their
Yeah.
philosophy.
I'll tell you a story. Like we had engineers from Japan to sort of, teaching everybody or make sure the process is right. And one of the U.S. engineers said, "Hey Tim, let me show you something." So at the end of the plant, Corolla cars are rolling off, right? And he went over there and just kind of put his hand on the hood and just wiped it a little bit, put some mark on it. You can't really see it. And the two Japanese engineers were standing side by side, on each side of the car, looking at the final thing, have a visual inspection, and they pulled the line, said, "Stop everything. There's elbow grease on the hood of the car." And that's considered a defect in their whole framework of mindset. And they pulled that car off, completely rebuffed and re-cleaned it and put it back on the line.
Yeah.
Lesson learned there is that they were so maniacally serious about defects. It has to be zero defect. And they will measure, Toyota, Mazda, I don't know where to get these industry reports, and then Honda and all that stuff, right? And then Nissan and all that stuff. And consistently, Toyota cars were, at least 10, 15 years ago, was ranked number one. It had 0.2 defects per car, or something like that, or per thousand, or something like that.
Yeah.
So they
Yep.
took that thing very seriously. It's like their whole life is around quality.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a quality team in the plant, and they would inspect everything. They would, and fit and finish is a big thing in the body plant side of auto. So they would walk around to all of the cabs, and once the hood is on there, they do all the fit and finish inspections, and they walk around with a little ruler and say, okay, is the gap, is it 3 millimeters, 2 millimeters, and we a lot of times, because the fit is entirely dependent upon a machine. And so if a machine is slightly off at the
Right.
beginning of the line, when it makes
just
its way
gets
to the end, it can get further and further apart. So
right.
they would say, hey, you might want to look at that. And then we would go over and like fix it.
Root
And
cause everything down to the machine that needs to be recalibrated, probably.
exactly.
My
Yeah.
God, I feel like the only other engineering philosophy mindset framework they respect is the German engineers. They'll tell me, if you go to the German manufacturing plants, nothing gets passed. Every like even a hair of a defect, they'll stop everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You got to walk into one of those clean rooms and put on a suit and hair nets and
yeah, the
things
bunny
like
suits and
that.
hairnets to go into the plant. It's fascinating. That's why they make great cars. Um, and but that philosophy mindset, I think is also very interesting, I guess, in your career, in my career as well. In addition to your athletics, background, where things are shifting every half a second, on the court, and then but in the auto manufacturing environment, things are changing as well. But there's guardrails everywhere. It's kind of a interesting dichotomy there.
Yeah. Yeah. Making that connection between basketball and then automotive. Um, yeah, I would say, like I said, that the teamwork was the biggest thing, um, and then making the connection from auto to APIs.
Right.
It really helped me to root cause things properly.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
uh, if an API goes down, it's the same thing as an auto line going down, right?
Right.
You have an end user who's relying on one of your products,
Right.
and you need to be able to properly articulate to the user what
Right.
happened. If you're doing a post-mortem or something,
Yeah.
it's the same thing as doing like a downtime report
Yeah.
and auto.
Yeah.
Um,
It could be
so
the parameter on the API interface. It could be the a couple of data sources have changed their format so it wouldn't fit anymore. It could be infrastructure issues where, there's somebody else to unplug something for a
Yeah.
second and it
Yeah.
create a couple of errors and you got to go figure that out. That's incredible. But you've been there for 4 or 5 years now. Um, what is the sort of migratory evolution of the Benzinga API that feeds all of those news articles, analysis, and opinions to what it is now that you're looking at this thing? Has the market demand shifted, your ICP shifted, or the amount of information that people demand it's much deeper now? Tell us about that evolution that you've seen the past couple of years.
Yeah. So we've evolved a ton. We started with just our news feed, and we had a very basic corporate actions suite. So we would cover things like earnings announcements, dividends, stock splits, things like that. Um, and that was kind of the core API. And as we've gotten into the AI world, we're able to use AI and more of this data, and we can create RAG applications and uh, unique tools using AI to
Mm-hmm.
create summaries. One interesting product that we've built recently is our conference call transcripts endpoint.
Oh, yeah.
So as these executives are speaking on conference calls, you used to have to log into the call or call in and you would
Yep. Or
listen to
wait,
it. Yeah.
and for next days for someone to give you the PDF file or something like that. Read through that whole thing. It takes forever.
Yeah. And then you're trying to grab a sliver of information from that call to maybe steer um, the earnings might have been positive, but maybe they mentioned something on the call that wasn't exactly up to par. So the information that you get from those calls is super important, and we've built our conference call transcripts endpoint to give that information back to the users.
Right. Is this transcribing in real time
It's
almost?
yeah, it transcribes in real time, and
Yeah.
so I love watching it during earnings season, and
Yeah.
you
It's like
can
Matrix.
watch, yeah, you can watch these utterances come out, and sentence after sentence it'll come out. It's all time stamped,
Yeah.
and it flows through a WebSocket, and then afterwards it gets cleaned up, and the speakers get attached and diarized, all that
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, does that translate over to the prediction market? I mean, a lot of people are betting on press releases, some kind of a, um, information leakage. I don't know how these prediction market works. Maybe at certain points it doesn't really lock down before the press release happens. So, could you use this to feed near real time information for folks that are betting on these platforms to kind of give them an edge?
Yeah, so we recently started working with Kalshi, which obviously they're the biggest prediction market supplier in the space, in the States at least. Polymarket is huge globally.
Right.
Um, Per the CFTC, you can't bet on numeric value of a
How?
earnings
Uh-huh.
earnings report
Okay.
or economic report. It
Sure.
needs to be KPI based. So, for example, how many Spotify subscribers will they release in their Q2
Okay.
report? And so we've started working with them and supplying them our earnings data, and that's been one way that we've you know started working in the prediction market
Right.
space.
What's the difference between number and KPI? You can't bet on numbers, but you just give an example on how many subscribers Spotify gained in the next release. Isn't that numbers, or am I misunderstanding the difference between numbers and KPI?
I think it can't be a dollar value,
Okay,
and
that's
I
interesting.
I'm not super familiar with the rule, but
Yeah, but you can't
but
bet on. Oh yeah, exceeded the street forecast by 32 cents or something like that. But you can bet on, hey, we lost or gained or net gained subscribers. I guess if you
Exactly.
bet money on money is kind of gambling-ish. I don't know. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
an interesting take.
all of it is in a way gambling, but you can gamble on the stock market too, right? If you want to, I
You
mean,
can go through Fidelity to gamble all your money away.
yeah, you can do
Yeah,
these zero days to expiration
right,
options, and
right.
you can gamble that way.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. That's the exact same take. So you guys don't even have to invent new markets, right? The Kalashis and Poly markets will take you guys into places that you haven't even thought about before.
Yeah,
But that's interesting. That's well, at the end of the day, is data. So you guys probably have tons of data sources out there, grabbing information out of SEC's website or whatever public information these companies pulled out in the press release form, just kind of massively consuming this information to make sense of it and put it into a schema, that could be outpoured into something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We've got a massive data lake, as I like to call it, and we read from the SEC and all these company press releases, and we are able to extract and normalize the data
Right.
into a dependable and repeatable structure, and then
Right.
the end users and companies can consume that data and be confident that the EPS figure that we're sending them is accurate and
Right.
timely.
I can imagine that you guys can turn this technology and have the Benzinga AI watch 2,000 TV channels in real life, right? And transcribe things in real life in case there's a world event, breaking news, or something like that. All that stuff could be fed into this tool. Maybe that already exists.
Yeah, yeah. I
We're
mean,
not.
it already exists to an extent, and it also that's kind of what our editorial team is doing too. Last earnings season, we had one of our writers write an interesting piece on a snippet from a Hilton earnings
Okay.
call,
Right.
and the CEO mentioned that we're in a C-shaped economy rather than a K-shaped economy. I think a lot of people recently have been talking about K-shaped, where the wealthy and the lower
Yeah.
the half are diverging, and Hilton the Hilton call said they're converging, and so I think that was interesting analysis that we were able to layer on top of
Yeah.
the data itself, when AI would never have known that that's uh, an interesting snippet.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess they have interesting bits into the economy we don't have right there. I think they, other than all the real estate properties that they own, I think they probably have a lot of travel data as well
Yeah,
uh, to make that call. I mean, then you got to give it to Hilton, right? They always have say a couple of things here and there, right, to grab attention.
yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's great. Um, what about this? I mean, I think we saw some numbers yesterday, even today, where inflation is hitting through the roof. Um, 3-year high, 2-year high. We thought we got in a break, but everything is going through the roof. How does that affect how people sort of interrogate data that you guys feed, or asking interesting questions to Benzinga, or even in the writers' room, the editorial room, because that impacts everybody, up and down the block, the CEOs, the common folks like you and I. How's that world changing for you guys? It's not just about equity market anymore. It's basically literally people's wallet and bought their bottom line.
Yeah, I think people want to know what's happening, and if we're able to dig into any rate announcements and provide that information, any time of volatility is generally good for our business. Um,
That's true, I guess.
Even if it's a downturn, a market downturn, if rates are high,
Right.
we we that's generally good for Benzinga because people gravitate to us to find that
The reason, the why.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What do we do? And I'm sure nowadays, anytime you mention mortgages, right, there's probably a whole slew of people trying to figure out what they want to do. I mean, the equity market is at all-time high. The real estate market is at all-time high. Nobody's building any more homes except for Southern California. I feel like there's a apartment complex being built every other week. Um, there's a lot of general anxiety, I feel like, in the market. But what about the labor market? Let's shift topics a little bit. Um, I want to say every day there's some kind of a layoff announcement being made or even predicted, if you will. Um, what's happening there? Are you guys focusing on that bit of a signal as well?
I think we definitely do cover all of the big tech layoffs and things like that. Um, yeah, I second that. I mean, it's interesting to see. I don't know how many of these layoffs are happening because maybe times are tough and companies were
Mm,
overstaffed,
right,
or if there's a true use of AI and we're all of a sudden we're writing code so much faster and we don't need as many employees. It's interesting to think about that um, that dichotomy of those two things.
right, yeah. Other than data services, I think that's you're part of that API services, data services. Um, how else is Benzinga making revenue? Is it ads or guest posts? What else is happening there?
Yeah, so Benzinga has three main verticals, and all of it is centered around the news. And so the first one is subscriptions. Um, so we do that through the form of our licensing subscriptions, um, which is a B2B contract. And then we have B2C subscriptions. So we have a pro research terminal it's like a Bloomberg terminal. Um, and users can subscribe to that. Those are typically the power users they're making trades, they're monitoring the wire,
Right,
they want that real-time data.
right,
Um, and then aside from that, we have our a paywall. So we've paywalled the site. Users can still read a decent amount of content, but if they want to read, the full site, they have to
right,
subscribe.
right.
And
And
then
there's some advertising going on as well, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So the second line is the advertising,
Uh,
um, which is basically just we advertise on our website and create sponsored content like any other
right,
news org.
right,
Um, and then the third is lead generation. So we're able to drive leads to partners, and obviously they pay for that.
oh, sure. Like drive a lead to a Kalshi as a potential customer.
Yeah, yeah. So
Right.
for example, if a retail user wanted to know what's the best prediction market platform to use,
Got it.
if they come to a trusted source like Benzinga, we can send them to Kalshi, and then Kalshi would in turn
Right. Get
compensate
paid.
Benzinga for that
Right.
lead flow.
Some a tracking link on the URL, click through, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Um, wow. This is fascinating.
It's
Any.
interesting. It's
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah. And it's just turning raw data into information knowledge, and to help people to learn about whatever they want to learn in the stock market and financial market in general. That's really cool. How many people are there in Benzinga? I feel like it's a large organization there.
Yeah, we've got around 200 employees total at
Yeah,
Benzinga.
And international offices, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, international. We've been growing a ton in APAC, in Europe as well. So we're starting to staff more over there,
Right.
and people love the retail markets. They love these U.S. markets. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, and
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
and so we've been kind of leaning into that.
Yeah. The crypto, stable coin, all that stuff is fascinating for the rest of the world that don't have access to the traditional fiat greenback, right? They leverage all these things to kind of own a piece of America in some ways, own a piece
Yeah,
of
they see these gains that can be made through Nvidia and
right.
these massive mega caps, and they want a piece of it.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of fintech in those part of the world that could just have their foot in the U.S. with a broker dealer relationship and then amass, equity on the other side and do trades in that kind of a sense, bypassing whatever regulatory uh, guardrails that they historically had, which is
Exactly.
fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any travel plans for the summer, Tommy?
I'm headed to visit my brothers in Nashville tomorrow,
Okay,
so that should be fun.
yeah, safe travels, Nashville. That's a whole different episode, right? That entire state has been
Yeah,
attracting a lot of people, certainly folks from California moving over there with a little bit more tax efficiency there gain as well.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you, Tommy. This is fascinating. So for everybody else that uh, already don't know for whatever reason to find Benzinga, is it benzinga.com?
Correct.
Benzinga?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Not
And
Buzzinga, it's Benzinga.
Benzinga. But if corporate clients wants to reach out to the data services, is it a different website or different? How do we get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, anyone can visit benzinga.com/APIs or reach out to licensing at benzinga.com or myself, Tommy at benzinga.com.
Okay, I'll put that all in the show notes. This is great. I didn't know a whole lot about the whole data. I'm certainly being a consumer of the retail information. I didn't know there was a whole lot of information on the back end where businesses and even consumers, prosumers, can get access and to learn and calibrate their strategy, if you will. This is great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tommy.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having me on, Tim.
you got it.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.